I think that feeling of wanting to be useful, about contributing, about building something that's valuable, I don't know where I really got that from. A mixture of parenting, my friends from childhood, but I think it's that emotion that really drove me toward these types of experiences. But um, I think had I just gone down the computer science path, went to school for that, got a job as an engineer, I don't know, maybe that part of me wouldn't have awoken. Dropped out of medical school, dropped out of the program in general, and then kind of found a home in chemistry, in analytical chemistry, and just really went through a series of random events, bumbling around in consulting. I think one of the things that felt extremely weird at the time, like I had no direction, like I had no destination to get to, resulted from me just saying yes to things. People were like, hey, you want to help me do this thing for my friend's cabinet shop? They have this old system and they need to write some reports on it. And I said, yeah. And I helped them and I did it. And then somebody else said, hey, do you want to work on this contract with the SBA to go audit a bunch of companies that are failing and see if you can help find a plan to recover them? And I just said yes. And so I think at the time, my mom and my dad had a lot of criticism about, like, what is your life going to be about? Like, can you maybe focus a little bit and choose a career path and go down it? But I actually think saying yes to a lot of those things and just being really open-minded about it, I think that's really what led me to even find that there was a problem in manufacturing and in the software that runs most manufacturers. So I don't know that I can recommend that as a path. I think that uniquely for me, it was a result of shame and like not making it in medicine, and not
you just wanted
really
to be successful
knowing.
in something.
Yeah, I wanted to do something that I could do good at again, that I could contribute something to. I wanted to be useful again. And I think that feeling of wanting to be useful, about contributing, about building something that's valuable, I don't know where I really got that from. A mixture of parenting, my friends from childhood, but I think it's that emotion that really drove me toward these types of experiences. But I think had I just gone down the computer science path, went to school for that, got a job as an engineer, I don't know, maybe that part of me wouldn't have awoken. But I think all these different business experiences and human experiences, talking to a manufacturing facility just outside of Omaha that was run by the same family that is only doing a few $1 million in revenue, but really understands the parts that they're making and who they're making it for. There was just a whole world of people that, as a person who wrote websites and made custom burn Napster CDs for people in high school, that there's just no way that I would have been exposed to that part of the world. So I think I'm mostly really grateful for the fact that I even chanced into an opportunity to meet so many of these people so many years ago.
That's fascinating. So can you share who the company out of Omaha was?
I probably can't actually, but they were making components for irrigation systems, for large like above ground irrigation systems. So
got it. Yep, understood. That's funny. I used to work for one of those companies, so that's fascinating. So with that knowledge, you basically kind of became a Swiss Army knife for tons of these different companies, starting off at a cabinet making shop. It sounded like you had conversations with people with above ground irrigation. Like, that's fascinating to me. And I am a huge believer in that your experiences that ultimately add up to what you are and who you are today, those all play into how you became successful in what you are today. Specifically, like for me, I can call back to customer support and customer experience. I mean, I had specific days where I would come in the morning and somebody would basically have a mental breakdown on the phone with me because the crops that they were trying to get irrigated were not getting irrigated because of the system that we sold them. Something had happened, whether it was our fault or not our fault. I still had to coach them through that moment. And I basically had 2 years of coaching people through these really, really angry situations that they were in, regardless of whose fault it was. We had to get the issue resolved. And that problem solving, I know that does something in your mind, because basically it's like having somebody behind your desk screaming at you and you're like, okay, well, I still have to solve this problem whether or not you're screaming, right here or not. So did you find yourself, it sounds like you're really grateful for all those things that you didn't know you would end up doing.
Yeah, and to your point, I think that some of the most like humble or like unimpressive experience that I've had actually have been the most formative. I tell this story about how I didn't do well in school because I was playing too much World of Warcraft and it was part of this #1 ranked World Raid Guild. But the detail of that story is that I wasn't the raid leader of that group. I wasn't the guild leader. I didn't have any sort of management skills or whatever. I was tech support. One of my co-founders wrote an ERP system essentially for the video game to help us manage our resources and plan the fights out. And he went on to work at Google as one of their top engineers for a while. He was one of my co-founders for a while that is sadly no longer part of the business. But he was the kind of the brains, the CTO of the organization. The raid leader was another one of my co-founders. He was the leader of the organization. I was the person deploying our custom software to a bunch of video game players, half of which had no idea what was going on. And I would literally remote desktop into their computers and set it up for them. That was my job. I was the primary tech support person. So I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but
no, I get it.
Think
yeah.
In those experiences, I think I learned also what it meant to have a group of people that are doing something with you and for you and how to support them. And that their success, the success of the team that you have, is actually way more important than who the leader is and what they're saying. So I think that stayed with me a lot. But we talk internally about how people come first and then the products and then our profits and our growth, which certainly having venture-backed capital helps with that. But enabling the team, empowering them, giving them the ownership of both parts of the company and the work that they're doing, that I think is the big thing that I started to learn even back then and then later on in life as well.